Hello and welcome, everybody. This is going to be the Daily Dharma, and my name is Dina. Thank you so much for joining. So, today we've got a couple of pre messages popping out from the mixed shamanic deck, and the three that came out were 48, Sky Dancers, Surrender, then the Drum, number 15, and finally, Moving Out of Stagnation, Dust Devil, also number 15. So two number 15s. And in the traditional tarot, for those that don't know, that does represent generally the devil card, the card of codependency and attachment, which I didn't realize the 1515 synchronicity until just now. But what I was getting from the pre-message is this Sky Dancer surrender with the drum and the dust devil is that there is some type of situation developing in someone's life here that is creating the feeling of, okay, I've tried many different approaches. I have attempted something many different times, but I am letting go of my attachment to some type of outcome and surrendering to the flow of perhaps in some people's situation, something that is not going to lead you into the outcome that you desire or wish for. And so there's this idea that there's been quite a bit of invested time, energy, and perhaps even money, but ultimately our time is money, our energy is currency, it is energetic. The charge that we put our attention towards is a form of currency, literally. And so with this, it's like, even though there's been an investment, there's this release of tension where before it was like, I'm hearing the devil in the details. So attachment to each little nuance and controlling the little micro situations and inputs, I want to say, the things that go into whatever you're trying to create or develop here. And so there's something, whether that's a relationship, a job, or a way of being, that is not working out the way that you would perhaps choose. And so the surrendering is that you are perhaps just pulling back your resources and attention back onto the self, releasing that and saying, it's almost like a let go, let God type of an idea where it's like, well, I'm going to, again, release from the outcome, let that sit, and I'm going to focus on something that I can put my energy towards, something I can control, such as my own happiness and well-being. And when we're really devilish on details on something that we're pushing and pushing that doesn't actually manifest, all of that manifestation energy seems to be heavier and heavier. And I did see something this morning. I cannot remember the name of it, but it was talking about the feeling of greater and greater investment into something that is not coming to fruition. And the example used was, if you are walking to the store and you're about 10 blocks in, which is a bit of a hike, and you all of a sudden realize the store isn't even open right now. It won't be open for a couple hours or something. And the idea behind the two decisions is like, well, you've invested 10 blocks into this, but it's not going to be open. So you've already, gotten halfway. Are you going to turn back, or are you going to go to a place that isn't even open? Are you going to continue to knock on a door that isn't opening? And for whatever reason, it's coming up with the idea of like those that are romantically interested in an unavailable partner, however that happens to be for you, somebody who's emotionally unavailable, or a rejecting spouse or partner, or a boss that doesn't respect you. Maybe there's some type of disparity between their ideas and perhaps even a set of discrimination in some regards, something like that coming up, or like the married person that somebody else is attracted to. These are all closed doors. And ultimately, in this moment, if you can release that, there's this moment of clarity about you deserve better than to knock on a closed door. So if you just let that situation be and walk 10 blocks back to the house, you can go to a place that is open. You can change your route, reroute to a destination that is open, you know? But yeah, so many people, it's said, would then, because they've already gone 10 blocks, in symbolic form, would continue to go. Well, I've already invested so much time and energy. It's got to be cracking open soon enough. But is that the ego saying, well, if you've put so much into it, let's not admit that we've been pursuing something that isn't going in the right direction. Let's not pull back resources. Let's not re-strategize. But we can see that there's a need to re-strategize. And in the moment, I'm kind of seeing something with my own situation that wasn't apparent to me before. It's a challenging situation internally for myself. I will just reveal this because I like to be authentic. Such as this channel, I've tried various approaches. I feel that there is definitely a message developing, but somehow I'm not quite meeting the viewers where they want to be met at. I can view other individuals. I see other individuals' approaches, the way that they formulate their language, the way that they can speak so fluently without hesitation, the things that they speak about, even the way that they phrase things. I can phrase things a certain way, like, you need to this, you need to that, but other people will slyly say, you are already doing this. And I understand the discrepancy and the difference of pumping people up versus, strategizing online and working through that with folks. So, take that with a grain of salt. I mean, this is just me opening up and being humble in that regard. It's the same type of a thing where we can see other individuals and the way that they model and the way that they succeed or fail. It's easy for us to say, oh, well, you just need to leave that deadbeat, or, oh, well, that's a dead end job. Why are you still there? You deserve better. But when it's us in a certain situation, there are times where, let's say, super strong individuals will be compromising and accommodating to situations or energies that don't deserve it. There's no merit there, but because of ideals or ethics, there is a certain tolerance to things that don't suit us, and then it slyly kind of keeps us connected and attached to things that we've already outgrown. And so I feel like that's the surrender card, if you can follow that. So the drum card is like that conjuring phase of, now that we've recognized, okay, that store is closed, I have come 10 blocks or whatever the case may be, but I'm going to ask the universe to help me conjure my redirect. I'm going to ask the universe to show me and support me with synchronicities and guidance and the wherewithal, the courage, whatever it is that you need to do, the insight and awareness to manifest a better outcome. And that's where it's like hitting that drum is like, maybe even I'm seeing somebody sitting back into a position of surrender and allowance for the messages to come through, and just like synchronizing breath and body, tuning into the heartbeat and getting straight about what things need to shift and change in order to move this situation out of some type of stagnancy, unfulfilling circumstance, and to allow us to shed the outer layer of skin that's been, it's like the snake skin that becomes too tight. And it's time to move out of that old situation and into the light, perhaps in some way. Maybe you've been playing small and not being able to put yourself out there in some type of situation, or to be able to advocate for yourself or your beliefs in some way. Not sure what it is for each individual, but those are the pre-messages. And the other thing that has been coming through is about weaponized incompetence. So this came through a few days ago, maybe even up to a week ago, where it's been something that I have witnessed from an early age into my childhood in my family of origin, where one of the individuals in the household would claim that they did not know how to operate the washing machine. And quite literally, our washing machine at that time, you threw the clothes in, you turned the dial to a specific place and pushed it in or pulled it out or something, and it would fill with water. You add soap, you close the lid, and it does the work for you. So then, after having been shown multiple times, this individual stuck to the story of being unable to do that. Now, that seems obvious, but it worked. And the individuals that were in positions of authority allowed it. And then those of us who weren't playing stupid were then charged to take up the slack on those chores. This happens in the workplace, this happens in marriages. And then another thing that was coming through recently, watching a lot of various informative videos where people are really calling things out. There's a big upsurge in the rebalancing within and without of the masculine and feminine essence. And many of us will see this in different ways, but it's protecting and providing for the self as well as those within our charge, and also nurturing and being open and receiving, but also taking action in a direction that honors the sacred nature of the love and the light. And when we accommodate things that are insulting to respect or accountability, that's where we start to really get all twisted up, all cobwebbed up. I don't know. That's just the image coming through about, well, how come I can't advance here? It's because there's something here that needs to be resolved or worked out. And so, this weaponized incompetence it's so much beyond that too. It's like, I definitely will say that I understand many fathers are also single parents. Many fathers are also great spouses and things, but many would also agree that by and large, the general trend of things right now is due to social norms and so on, and expectations of who would be responsible for which chore. Uh, there are many individuals, especially, I want to just go into a few more stereotypes here, the older generations, where these individuals were, they cut their teeth on these ideas that the mother was the caretaker and the father was the breadwinner. And these ideals have been passed down. And even as in some of our minds, the feminine was seen to return to the workforce. Feminine has been out there trying to be every woman. And in that same token, by and large, again, the masculine wasn't ever really highly motivated, perhaps, or encouraged or inspired to return to the household per se. So however that works out in our jobs and such, there are often those situations where you can kind of see you are in a workplace and those that get ahead are part of the, let's say, the old boys club, the good old boys, and they kind of like, you don't have to do the work, but I like you, so you're going to advance. Where, like there's this quote about these old dancers, Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, I think, where they said, yeah, he got all the kudos for being such a great dancer. But, she was doing the same thing, but her dance steps were all moving backwards where she couldn't even see. She had to trust where this guy was leading her and know the footfalls without looking, trusting her body completely, surrendering to the dance, and in heels. And those of us that are out in various workplaces will understand that as a woman, it is almost necessary for many women who wish to get ahead to play into certain things depending on your workplace dynamic, but so much so that in a professional field, let's say like lawyers, doctors, and even office workers, it's expected that you are going to dress up, and part of dressing up is wearing these nice fancy shoes. Flats aren't as seen as awesome as wearing heels. And if you show up and you have your natural beauty on display, you're seen as somebody who's just, nice and not ugly. But then if you wear makeup, they assume that you care for yourself more, that you take more pride in your appearance, and they advance those people more. All right, those are some stereotypes, I understand, but there's this setup here where many of us are, even if this is the masculine dealing with this, there's the idea behind this that even for the masculines, I'll go this direction for a little while. A couple of things that hit me with this disparity of being able to be celebrated and respected as a masculine in this world who is able to balance those polarities within the self. It's seen like if you're within certain groups and contexts, if you're not out there talking about the right sports teams, if you aren't picking on the other men and subtly, nudging their masculinity and questioning this and that about them, that then you are seen to be the weaker one. And if you're out there taking care of the kids, then are you babysitting for your wife? Doesn't she do this? Type of an idea that can come through and challenge those men in the way that then they have to represent the other side of their gender, and it can feel very challenging. And I'm not trying to excuse or perpetuate anything, but I think that during this time there is an incredible upsurge in the true rebalancing of those disparaging viewpoints, I want to say, that detract from the actual sovereignty, both of masculine and feminine, and within the self, the ability for us to balance those things for ourselves, to either unduly take the responsibility of either paying all the bills while somebody, doesn't do as much in the household, or the idea that both individuals are out earning, and there's also that discrepancy in the household. So yeah, there's so many ways this could go, but I want to end that tangent there. We're going to go ahead and put these cards back. We're going to look at the bottom, fire, and eye of the needle, intentionality. So there's something that's firing you up. And I'll also, as I'm reminded, it was almost like as I was preparing myself to get ready to come out here today, I was thinking of how is the approach today that I'm being asked to embody to challenge individuals who are comfortable with these old things, not even comfortable, but that are these things that have been normalized in our culture or family or whatever, our workplace. And it almost seemed like the invitation was for me to encourage people to get angry about it. Particularly, one of the other things that was brought up was that there is a definite difference in the amount of medicines and self-medication that women are taking compared to men, such as antidepressants and such, that are numbing out our awareness. When we see something that isn't honoring the feminine, whether we're masculine or feminine, then the feminine's recent response has almost to be like, how can I get myself into a place where I can allow this to continue and not feel so crazy by numbing? And it's like that depressed energy is so low vibrationally. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying that it's so suppressing to the energetic signature that you're able to generate. That vital life force energy is so depressed that anger is a higher vibrational frequency. So can you get yourself riled up? Can you look at injustices and not get yourself tangled in that anger, but utilize that anger to say, yes, I have a right to honor my sacred skill set and the need for balance in my life, the need to be accountable to only what is mine, and to encourage and insist that others are accountable for the energies that affect me. Define that however you will. So, of course, anger is still pretty far down there, but it will assist us to get out of sadness and victimization mode and into that holy hell no. What are you ready to say yes to? What are you ready to say no to? The mystical shaman is showing up, one of the deck's namesakes, 38. And wasn't that early card a 38? Maybe it was not. The mystical shaman is doing a lot of inner work, a lot of inner travels, trying to decipher the ghosts of the past and the breath and the encouragement of spirit to move forward in a powerful way. And there may be a need for some of us to then also reconnect with the disowned soul parts, those parts of ourselves that perhaps from an early age we were programmed to dismiss. One more thing too, I saw recently where there were little girls and little boys, and this was a bit of a social experiment, and somebody made some Jell-O, and instead of making it with sugar, they made it with salt. And so it looks the same, but then they asked all the kids to go ahead and have this snack. And when they asked them how it was, the girls were like, nice. Do you want more? No, that's okay. Thanks, though. And then they were asked, well, is it ever okay to lie? And they're like, no, never, never, say never. So they're like, no, it's never okay to lie. And they're like, did you like the Jell-O? Yes, we liked the Jell-O. And why would you say that? Because we didn't want to hurt someone's feelings. But the boy that they were showing was like, ooh, this isn't really great. And they're like, you don't like it? Not really. Should we give it to the other kids then? And he says, no. And why? Because it's not good. And then they said, well, weren't you afraid of hurting her feelings? And he says, no, she's an adult. I think she can handle it. So are we treating someone as a child, or is somebody acting childish? like that weaponized incompetence, this can be so many things. I shared it on my line the other day when I saw this video. It wasn't a great one, but it was talking about how, like, you have this nicely folded towel in a specific spot, and then somebody has to bring it up, wipe their hands, and then just toss it in a corner. That's not where it goes. The laundry basket, and then putting the dirty clothes, throwing them on the floor right next to the basket. Somebody who likes a really orderly something like spice cabinet or something like that, or your toolbox or something like this. These are some things I've dealt with. There's a certain way that things need to go back, and a certain individual felt so challenged by something else that then they acted out for perhaps negative attention by disordering that, not only like messing with where things go, but leaving things out, letting things tip in the cabinet, even liquids, and just leaving them, leaving cabinet doors open, taking the tools, spreading them all out, and just leaving them for months, even repeatedly asking for that to be fixed, led to a tantrum. And when is enough enough? So if you're dealing with that, this mystical shaman wants to bring you back into your center, into your own Akashic heritage, to awaken all that you all are, all of your power, all of your complexities and emotional resonance, to invite you to call upon your Kundalini life force energy, excuse me, and to bring that energy upwards and climb step by step. Perhaps anger is one of the first steps in justice, and taking that, not getting lost in the anger, because anger doesn't necessarily serve, but then at some point getting into the neutral phase of surrender, which is where we're at now, in order that we're like, all right, well, that store is closed. It isn't mutual. It isn't cooperative. It isn't synergistic. It isn't respectful. And so it's not something that can continue in the way that it does, because I and many others believe that illness, disease, and even cancer and other autoimmune diseases and such come from suppressed energy. It comes from extreme cognitive dissonance that leaves us feeling oppressed and separated from our life force energy. Vitality is the opposite of that. And we need to call our energy back into our body, back into our essence. And we need to say, I deserve respect. I have 2 cards on the floor for you. Let's see. Okay. We have 36, middle world. So this is something quite literal happening in your environment, in the context of perhaps your outer world, perhaps your inner world. But I would suggest that people dealing with this can sense it and witness it across many different areas of their lives, where part of our vital energy is being unjustly sacrificed to an energy or a person, place, thing that is codependent, parasitic, and stealing our energy. And as soon as we say stealing our energy, we need to understand that no one can take our energy without us being complicit in the allowance of that energy being sucked out of us. So if a situation, place, thing, person is sucking the life out of us, losing our breath, you may feel this, a lump in the throat, inability to speak, or the heart, tension, shallow breathing, grief in the lungs. We're witnessing this now. The next card is perfect. 51, stars in the sky, limitless possibilities. So middle world also is talking about socialization, our society, and how we socialize, the norms that we set up for ourselves. And if we are only looking at the horizontal, I want to say, the planes of existence and the materialized reality and the way that other people interact, it's easy to say this is normalized behavior. But whatever we give our attention to is what persists. And so, just as often as we can see these normalized, unaccountable, unequal partnerships and energies, we can also bring ourselves back into center with the first awareness of deservingness, worthiness, and we can set the bar higher. And when we set the bar higher, when we invoke, when we speak that truth into the world, then we become that advocate for change. We instill those proper boundaries. Look at this beautiful bubble around the canopy of that tree. It's like, take up space, take up your sacred throne, and respect yourself enough to demand better. And with this limitless possibility, it's like in this reconnection with all that we are connected to that soul star chakra that's beyond the evidence of this world, to the possibilities that we are the breath of change for ourselves, for our future, for the future generations to come. And everything we do or do not do delays or mobilizes that future. Under the deck now we have stranger curiosity. So again, with that, the stars in the sky, limitless possibilities, it's like you have caught the attention of many individuals here, and you have more options perhaps than you realize. An unmarked trail revelation is happening here. It's like maybe you've been all twisted up, but the above and the below energies are coming into the center, into the core, stabilizing our energy in some way. So it looks like we're already at the end of this video. I hope that I was able to get some information out there that you guys can utilize. Let's get a couple of code cards on this. Tantric journey, yes, the that middle of the unmarked trail represents that combination of masculine, feminine essences, the earth and the sky energies coming together powerfully in our core. And look at this. Discernment, Gaia, and divine feminine. We are advocating and expanding the influence and the respect and sacredness of the divine feminine, whether in any polarity, and normalizing, hopefully, the ability for men to be true men, divine, sacred, nurturing, as well as other things. And we're getting that into our core too. A surge of new compassion, solar plexus on the bottom, taking up that will. And I appreciate you guys so much for staying till the end. Thank you so much. And conception, yeah, we're birthing a new reality, which has come up again and again in the readings. Now with emergence underneath, something is coming to our attention.